Hey everyone. So as we go through my office and we start dragging everybody in, we had Aaron here, who is one of my acquisitions people. We have a lot more people to go through. Today, we're bringing Haley in. Haley is our transaction coordinator. She is literally the person that pretty much runs every transaction we do. How you doing, Haley?
Very well.
Very well. So just so you know, Haley's a bit nervous to be on camera here, right? So let's just get it out in the open. And Haley does a lot for us in our business. She is literally a backbone of a lot of things that we do. And while she may seem shy here, let me tell you, she can put up with some crap. So she talks to sellers every single day. Mad sellers, happy sellers. She is the friendly voice behind the phone. So are you ready?
Yes.
All right. I'm in a few words. So basically, when our sales reps go out and they obtain pen to paper, they get that contract done. The first thing they do, they come and hand it to you, right?
Yes.
So when you get that contract, you're going to contact the seller. So when you contact the seller, what are you saying to them?
Congratulations that they are deciding to work with us. We tell them thank you. I'll get some information on the property, if they have tenants, if they've served the tenants, what we can do to help them with the tenants. Mm-hmm. And then also I'll send a follow-up email that has all my information as well as the escrow department that we use, mm-hmm. and a copy of their contract, and let them know if they ever need anything, all my information, so that they're able to reach me.
Great. So you're basically the voice of the company after they get that signed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, I let them know I'll take over everything. If they do need the salespeople, they can contact them, but for now, everything with escrow goes through me.
Okay. So basically our goal is, so we have our acquisitions guys that are going out to these appointments. Their job is to go out and get the contract signed. Now, it's natural for the seller to want to talk to those people, right? Because it was their salesman. So the reason we have somebody like Haley in place is to try to make it so she calls them so friendly, so ecstatic that they're selling their house, that basically that seller wants to talk to her now, and they don't want to talk to the sales rep.
Yeah.
Now, most cases I'd say it works, right? They call you the majority of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're processing these files, so you call the seller, you're all excited for him, congratulations, you sold your house, and after that point, you're going through internally a checklist that we have.
Yeah.
And I guess I would say that you are the middleman between escrow and the seller in a lot of cases. Mm-hmm. So when you work with our escrow company, we have a pretty good relationship with them.
Yes. 100%. They're the best.
Oh, yeah, they're great. So Emerald Escrow in Corona, if you're in California, reach out to them. Donna and Anna, awesome people. But escrow does a good job of upholding the customer service that we try to put out. Escrow will contact the seller as well and say, hey, I'm calling from escrow. I know Haley said I'd be reaching out. We want to make sure that you guys know exactly who you can contact. And what this does, it pulls the seller away from calling that sales rep. Now they have multiple options of who they can talk to. Now, how often would you say you get yelled at by a seller?
Not too often, thankfully.
But it's happened.
Yeah. Of course, some of them have questions, and then if it's not the right answer or I don't have the answer, then things can get a little squirrely.
Mm-hmm. And these sellers, because they're hiding behind a phone, they can definitely voice their opinion to you a lot.
Yep.
Ultimately, for you, I mean, someone's calling and yelling at you. How are you handling that?
For the most part, it's not too bad, because I can kind of play in the middle, like get the right information and just tell them I understand, I'll work on it, I'll figure it out for you, kind of just more so calm them down, mm-hmm. than get angry by it. But there are some things that are out of my control that they get upset about that sometimes it's not always easy to deal with.
Does that ever take a toll on you, having them scream at you?
Sometimes. Only cried once. This month.
That was a bad one that you cried on. So I would say she has very thick skin for this stuff. You occasionally do get that bad apple, and I remember that one. That one was pretty bad. Yeah. I think more people internal have made you cry than sellers. But I mean, ultimately, when we look at what she does, I mean, she really focuses on customer service. So when we get done with every transaction, you're asking everyone for a testimonial, right?
Yep.
And in most cases, people want to give it.
Mm-hmm.
So we get a lot of testimonials in from sellers that basically say, hey, your customer service was fantastic. And they're not talking in most cases about the sales rep. They're talking in most cases about her because she's the one that had communication with them throughout the entire process. So how important do you think it is to have communication with the sellers as we do through these processes?
Very important. I think for the most part, they're kind of nervous overall. Most of those people have never done a transaction or a sale with like what we do. So they're super nervous. So if they don't hear from us often, even if there's no update, just to say, hi, how are you? Just want to let you know everything's still good to go. I think they get very nervous and they appreciate a lot of follow-up. So it's super important for them to hear from us, even if there's no update, just saying hi.
So if they don't hear from us, they think potentially we're not going to buy their house.
Yeah, that we're not interested anymore, or they're not going to get their money. Even sometimes when I tell them, okay, it's recording day, you'll get their money tomorrow, they're like, okay, how do I know I'm going to get my money tomorrow? Or how do I make sure it's...
Are you ripping me off or not, basically?
Yeah, like I'm already out, it's already vacant, how do I know I'm still going to get money tomorrow? So just to really get that trust with them and talk to them a lot to make sure that they're comfortable.
And so after your initial call, how often are you following up with each of these sellers?
Lately, it seems like every 3 days, 4 days.
Okay.
At least once a week for all of them.
Okay, so is there something that triggers it? Like something happens with Escrow? What triggers that phone call?
Usually what happens with Escrow, so they'll get information from Escrow, will call them and get their loan information, and I'll usually call them as soon as we get payoffs back to let them know about how much they owe. Most sellers know around what they owe, but they don't know exact amounts. So for them to know a better idea of exactly what they're getting back and their proceeds really helps them.
Okay.
So,
have you ever had a seller that's owed significantly more than they thought, and you've had to break that news to them?
Not yet.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that day. That's going to be fun.
Not yet.
So a lot of times sellers may have an idea of what they owe. But I mean, the sellers that have potentially late payments or anything like that, it's amazing when you have a late payment how quick that adds up. So when these sellers are looking at what they think they owe, but they've had a year of late payments, it's not just a year, it's not just one payment that hits them. They have a 30-day late that hits them. The next month they have a 30 and a 60 that hit them. Then they have a 30, a 60, and a 90 that hit them. And it just keeps going. So think of it like a credit card, right? Your credit card may have 25% interest rate if you don't pay it off. So think of how hard that is to pay off if you miss a payment. So same thing with mortgages. It's the exact same thing. When you're late, it adds up very quickly. So that will happen one day where you got to talk to people about that.
I think the only other thing they're surprised about is their taxes. Like they didn't know that they were going to have to pay taxes, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, typically when you sell a house, you don't think about it until Escrow says, hey, by the way, we're withholding 25% or whatever it is. And that's a surprise to a lot of people because sellers already have spent the money they're getting. If they're getting $300,000, either they're buying another house or they've already planned the car they're going to buy, anything like that. So moving, yeah. So, the dollars get pulled away from them. That's things they wanted to buy that go away. So all of a sudden we're the bad guy, even though we didn't set the tax rate. So, but moving's a good point. So as we talk about things we do for sellers to try to help them get out of the house, a lot of sellers we work with don't have any money, right? They can't even afford to move. So tell us about like how we do things to help sellers get onto their next place.
Well, one little option that Brittany does is Brittany will actually look up places. So if people need an intern place like an apartment, she'll actually help them find apartments that are available or areas that they're looking in to kind of just give them assistance. Also, we do upfront moving money. So once title's cleared and we have all the escrow documents signed, then we can give sellers a certain amount of money to help them move. So to pay for storage, to pay for moving trucks, to pay for deposits on new places, anything like that they can use the money for to get them out so that the property's vacant and we can close.
Great. And we've paid for movers in the past actually before too. So if someone's elderly, they can't really pack their boxes up, or it's a good thing to use if you don't think someone's actually going to vacate the house. By having movers set up for these people, what it does is it ensures that they're going to be out on a certain date. Now, most of these people watching are kind of getting new in these things. They probably don't have transaction coordinators set. They don't have acquisitions people in most cases. They're doing it all themselves. So if they look at their organizational chart for their company, it's me in every single position. So as they start building out their team and they start looking at a transaction coordinator role to come in, I mean, ultimately, we know you're a benefit to us. But how beneficial would you say that role is to a company like this? If we didn't have you in that position, I mean, you think things would just literally fall apart?
Here, yes.
Here, yes. Here, yes.
Because everybody has their own position and stuff they do, and everybody's busy all day long.
Mm-hmm.
So to put the amount of stuff that I do during a day and just the organization and the notes and the checklist to go through everything, and even the emails back and forth with Escrow, there's at least 50 to 100 emails a day going over all the properties and everything that's happening. So if that were to be put on someone else's back, on top of them trying to get contracts or on top of them getting investors, it would just be crazy.
So basically everything would burn down and fall apart without her in the company. But I mean, there's some times where we have 20 properties in Escrow. Our board right now is full again. We launched a new state, so now she's having to learn how to do. We have Escrow in California. The state we went into doesn't have Escrow. It's just titles, and it's attorneys that close everything for us. So it's quite different on how we work things. So she's had some challenges come through lately. And your state may be Escrow, it may be attorney. You may know how to do that, but think if you went to a state and they did the opposite of what you're doing. You're basically almost reinventing the wheel, trying to figure out how the heck do we do this? And we're going back to like the beginning stages of our company, trying to build processes and figure things out. And she's handled that really well.
And do it both ways at the same time.
That's actually a really good point, because we didn't just leave one state and go to the next. We're doing both. So she has to remember the processes for both of these things. And it's a challenge. And now we've got another state, well, really another 2 states that we're partnering in and doing some work in. And they don't have a transaction coordinator. And that was the first thing we realized that we needed to try to put in place in that company. At first I said, hey, we'll just throw it all on Haley, no big deal. But then I actually felt bad for her for a second, because it's going to be a lot of work. So that's one of the first things we did, was try to get somebody in that role. Because any company that's doing consistent deal flow, you're going to start finding that something falls apart without somebody in a position like this. Like she said, all this would get passed off to everybody in the company if she wasn't here. So that means somebody would have to call the seller and tell them what's going on. Somebody would have to remember to set up a notary for the escrow docs to be signed. Somebody would have to remember when the closing is. All this kind of stuff, I mean, she's got a full-time job. Full-time plus maybe more. Mm-hmm. She works very hard for us. So you need to find yourself somebody in the company like Haley. They can come in and literally run your stuff. Now, don't try to steal Haley from me, but have someone in there that's actually going to be running this stuff for you. And this is after you get going. If you're doing 1 deal a month, it's not needed. If you're doing 10 deals a month, yes, this is a position that will really help you, because you're going to start seeing when you take this stuff off your plate and pass it off to someone like Haley, you can make more money on the other things because you have more time to focus on getting contracts signed. Your dispositions, if they were going to do it, has more time to focus on building a buyer's list and trying to get the top dollar for every single property. That's a position you will pay for over and over again. You will make that money back by having somebody in there. So, Haley, thanks for joining us today. I know she was nervous being here. She did very well, and we're glad to have you here. So,
thank you. Glad to be here. Not going to be stolen. So.